Cam, if you could give back that league MVP for a Super Bowl championship, would you do it?
No.
Oh.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
Because you have to ask it through this lens. That was a very journalistic viewpoint or vantage point or response, Stephen A. I'll ask you this question, and, just to pose this thought. What's more important, impact or championships? You look at a guy like Allen Iverson, or you stood up on the table and blah, 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 blah. Everybody's not going to be Michael Jordan. Everybody's not going to be Patrick Mahomes. Everybody's not going to be these individuals who have the luxury of saying, hey, I not only dominated this sport, but I also have championships to back it.
Whoa, chill out, Cam Newton. Those haters are going to be coming after you. This is Sports Guy Talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about Cam Newton preferring to win MVP awards compared to winning Super Bowls. Of course, Cam Newton had to say this on First Take, which drew strong reactions from sports fans. As a result of this take, there are now sports fans debating about the impact of winning a championship. Before I say anything else, though, I want to present you guys with a topic question. So, here it is. Do you agree with Cam Newton's opinion on the importance of winning an MVP award? I do. I completely agree with everything Cam Newton had to say. Although Cam Newton could have delivered his statements a little bit better, I completely understand where he is coming from. He wants to make sure that he had a positive impact on the game of football and that the impact of the game should not be defined by Super Bowl victories. Cam Newton is absolutely right in that regard. Let me give you some examples. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl ring. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl ring. Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl ring. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl ring, while Dan Marino never won a single championship in his professional career. Now, all those guys that I just listed, they all have more rings than Dan Marino. Does that mean those guys are better than Dan Marino? Of course not. Cam Newton is trying to make sure that the game of football is being put into perspective when talking about the all-time greats. Just because you don't win a championship doesn't mean that you are not an all-time great. People are taking his statements out of proportion. There are folks out there that think Cam Newton said that winning Super Bowls isn't important and that he did not care to win Super Bowls. That is not what Cam Newton said at all. Cam Newton said that he would not be willing to trade away an MVP award for a Super Bowl trophy because he wants to make sure that he impacted the game in a positive manner. Cam Newton won an MVP award and changed the way how quarterbacks played football at the NFL level. When Cam Newton first entered the NFL, there was no such thing as a mobile quarterback. Mobile quarterbacks in the NFL were very scarce during that time period. Michael Vick was considered to be one of the greatest running quarterbacks during that time period. Obviously, Cam Newton comes into the NFL and he changes the way how people play football. Cam Newton was so good that he was ahead of his time. If Cam Newton had played in today's NFL, and I want to make this very clear, I'm talking about prime Cam Newton, not the broken down version of Cam Newton. If prime Cam Newton played in today's NFL, he would easily be a top 4 quarterback in the NFL. He might even be a top 2 quarterback in today's NFL. That's how good prime Cam Newton was. You look at how Cam Newton was 6'5", 250 pounds. He could run really fast. He was really powerful. He had a powerful arm. I know Cam Newton had inconsistencies with his accuracy, but those numbers were a little misleading. He was playing in a Mike Shula-based offense. Obviously, Mike Shula was one of the worst offensive coordinators during that time period in the NFL, and his wide receiver one was Kelvin Benjamin. If you guys don't know who Kelvin Benjamin is, look him up. That guy was absolute trash. Outside of playing with Cam Newton, he was horrible when he played for another team outside of the Panthers because Kelvin Benjamin never made any positive impact whatsoever. That's the sad thing about Cam Newton's NFL career. He was stuck with Kelvin Benjamin for much of his NFL career. I just had to make that talking point in there. I'm trying to put context into perspective. I also want to show you guys this clip of Cam Newton talking about Brad Johnson, Nick Foles, and Trent Dilfer winning Super Bowls. I liked what he had to say for the most part. Roll the film.
Let me remind you, Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Respectfully, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. So yes, when you look at those guys and you say, okay, what's more important? Would you have preferred to win a Super Bowl? I think that's the humble approach. But if we're being honest, the impact of you holding yourself accountable to say everybody has a responsibility to do. And you can say as an MVP award winner or an All-American, you've held yourself or you've held your end of the bargain down. And that's what it really comes down to for me.
Thank you!
There you go, Cam Newton. Thank you for putting things into perspective. That's what I've been trying to tell everybody. Just because you don't win a Super Bowl doesn't mean that you are not an all-time great player. The reason why Cam Newton is saying this in general is because he's seeing guys like Jalen Hurts making 2 Super Bowl appearances within a 3-year stretch, and all of a sudden, all these people want to crown Jalen Hurts as this all-time great quarterback, when that simply is not true. I'm not here to diminish the greatness of Jalen Hurts. He is, in fact, a very good quarterback. If you had to ask me where I rank Jalen Hurts, I would say he is somewhere in my top 10, probably in my top 8. But the fact of the matter is, Jalen Hurts is not an elite quarterback. That's just a flat-out truth. But obviously, Cam Newton had more of an impact than Jalen Hurts. But if we were to define quarterbacks through Super Bowl appearances, then people would think Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Cam Newton. And that is just flat-out false. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback, but Cam Newton was a great quarterback. He was a great quarterback stuck in a bad organization by the Carolina Panthers. I saw it firsthand as a Panthers fan. I rooted for the Panthers since day one. I've always been a Panthers fan, and I've always seen the organization fail Cam Newton when it mattered most, because they never got him primary weapons to work with in the passing game outside of Greg Olsen and Steve Smith. Cam Newton was set up for failure during most of his time on the Carolina Panthers. They didn't give the guy any protection whatsoever. So Cam Newton wants to make sure that winning championships is not the only thing that matters when talking about legacies for quarterbacks. Of course, winning matters, but it should not be the end-all, be-all discussions. I say this all the time in sports. What did you do during your peak prime years? Cam Newton was significantly impactful during his prime years, which is why I consider Cam Newton an excellent quarterback. I know that he didn't have longevity in his favor, but I don't really care for longevity all that much. I've always said longevity is an overrated stat. What you do during your peak prime years should matter more. Cam Newton is trying to bring that awareness into effect. Obviously, Cam Newton did a lot of great things for the city of Charlotte. He was a great Panthers player, and I like listening to Cam Newton on First Take. I know sometimes he gives out horrible takes in general. I don't necessarily agree with everything Cam Newton has to say most of the time, but mostly Cam Newton is solid with his takes at the quarterback position. I remember he said that Tua Tagovailoa was a game manager, and everybody roasted him for saying that. But guess what? Tua Tagovailoa is an overrated quarterback. In fact, he's probably one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Tua Tagovailoa is not a quarterback you can win a championship with. But I'm getting way off topic here. I'm just trying to point out the credibility of Cam Newton. Cam Newton was absolutely right in saying that he would not trade his MVP award for a Super Bowl trophy, because he knows that winning a championship is not the end-all, be-all. That's the truth. If you don't like it, then I don't know what to tell you, because I just spoke absolute facts about what Cam Newton said. So that is why I agree with Cam Newton's opinion on the importance of winning an MVP award, as it is better to be a Dan Marino type of quarterback compared to being a Trent Dilfer type of quarterback in that sense. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the @DustinNashTran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @DustinNashTran, and that's Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @DustinNashTran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel Sports Guy Talking.